Good day and greetings. This is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'd like to welcome you to episode 4 of the Management Makeover series. The focus of episode 4 is to unpack the 7-step process map of what I call the leadership development pathway, or to make it more memorable, I refer to it as the 7 E's. I believe this would resonate with your leadership journey, and of course this will, in marking upon this leadership pathway, this I believe will cement and fortify your leadership legacy as a leading manager. You'll recall from the preceding episodes 1 to 3, the focus of this particular Management Makeover series is to improve and to refine on your leadership and management skills. I'm hopeful that you will be able to extract some value from this specific episode in terms of the leadership development pathway, but also I'm hopeful that you'll be able to join me on episodes 5, 6, and 7 as we then continue through the performance management processes. Thank you. I'd like to check with you whether this resonates with your leadership journey. I call it the 7 E's of the leadership development pathway. So these are the process steps that I believe that you need to take on your leadership journey towards actualizing, towards cementing and solidifying your leadership legacy. I think you'll agree with me, the genesis, the starting point of leadership is a leader has to have a vision. A leader without a vision, in my opinion, is not a leader. And also I'd further to that, I say a leader without influence is also not a leader. But it does start with a leader creating a vision of the future, ideally a better future. And of course, just to make it more memorable, what I've done is I've corresponded each of these process steps with what I call the 7 E's. So I believe that in step 1 of this leadership journey, you need to be enlightened. You need to start off with a vision. And I don't want to quote well-known, especially political leaders, but a lot of them did start off with a vision. And of course, this vision had to be articulated. So if you look at step 2, had to be articulated in a very compelling and an inspirational manner. So therefore, the corresponding E's, you need to be eloquent. Because let's be honest, it's one thing to have a vision, but if you cannot sell that vision in a compelling, inspirational manner to facilitate that buy-in, the commitment, that sense of ownership. So your followers should not perceive it as the leader's vision, but should perceive it as our vision. So if you're not able to make that transition from my vision as a leader to our vision as a team, as a collective, then I'm afraid to say you're doomed to fail as a leading manager. Step number 3 of the process is then you need to exercise your positive and your constructive influence. And I think Henry Hett and Rose in particular highlighted this under the leadership differences, those 14 differences. So I believe that you need to be an engager. You need to engage, you need to interact, you need to connect, Rose, with your people. And of course, like we said, Henriette, that positive influence. And again, the Aristotle model, your ethos, your pathos, your logos, you have to be able to influence people. But ideally, and I want us to look at the sources of leadership power as well, ideally you want to do this by exercising your personal power and not being dependent on your positional power. And in my opinion, that is the acid test of any leader. If you are stripped of your formal authority, delegated powers, if you don't have that positional power, are your followers still prepared to follow you? So as a manager, we said it, the manager has subordinates, a leader has followers. Are those team members still prepared to follow you? So we need to engage them and we need to exercise that positive and constructive influence. Not everything goes according to the plan. Life happens, leadership happens, and things go wrong. And therefore, as a leader, you need to have this ability to guide, to motivate, and ultimately support your followers in the pursuit of the achievement and the actualization of that vision. So there are times when the wheels do come off, where you do need to be an encourager. People become despondent, people become negative. I think, Henriette, you spoke about that unification role that we have as leaders, that inspirational role. So we need to guide, we need to motivate, and we need to follow our supporters, especially during those times of turbulence. Think about what happened the last 2 years, in particular with this crisis, COVID-19 global pandemic. It had a major impact, and I think leaders were able to distinguish themselves during this turbulence, during the trials and tribulations of COVID-19, when there was a lot of negativity, there was a lot of disillusionment, there was a lot of despondence. People became very negative about the future. I think, Tepo, you mentioned this, you said it best. We need to serve as a role model. So, Tepo, we need to lead by example. And of course, like we said, the ethos that you need to be ethical, you need to position yourself as a credible source of leadership messaging. So the role modeling is very important. Exemplary leadership. You need to lead by example. I think it's very important. You cannot just pay lip service to your leadership vision, but when your team members look to you, you're certainly not practicing what you're preaching. So we need to create that consistency between the espoused and the enacted values. So as a leader, we have a core value system. And if you say, these are my priority values, you need to actively demonstrate that on a daily basis. We spoke about it, Rose, Henriette, this development role that we have. We need to nurture, we need to empower, we need to invest in people. I think, Tseko, you also said it. Tseko, you mentioned it as well when you highlighted people management, talent management. But we need to nurture and develop people. So like we said, Rose, we need to be an empowerer. And I think, Henriette, you said it best. We need to be a driver. Number 7, we need to be a driver, but also an agent of change. So we need to be an energizer. So these are the 7 E's. You need to be enlightened. You need to be eloquent. You need to be an engager. You need to be an encourager. You need to be ethical. You need to be an empowerer, but you also need to be an energizer, especially during times of change, radical change, especially during times of transformation. And that's why later on this morning, I want us to critically review transformational leadership model and see if it's still current, if it's still relevant in this modern leadership ecosystem. So this is the proposed journey. 2 questions from my side just before we move on. Does this resonate with your leadership journey? We're all at different stages of our journey. Some of us are at the midpoint. Some of us are quite far down the road. Some of us are maybe at the starting point. We may be at chapter 1 or chapter 2 of this leadership journey. Firstly, does this resonate with your leadership journey, this leadership development pathway? And secondly, have I perhaps overlooked any of the process steps? So when you reflect upon your leadership journey and maybe some of the experiences and the wisdom that you've accumulated over the years, is there something maybe that we've overlooked that you would like to throw into this leadership pathway mix? This is Dr. Charles Cotter signing out. I'd like to say thank you for viewing the short video clip, The Leadership Development Pathway, focused on the 7 E's of the leadership journey. I'd also like to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube learning channel and also click on the notify button to be alerted of upcoming content uploads, in particular the next episode of this management series, which looks at the 5 building blocks of the high-performance organizational culture. I'd also encourage you to check out my social media profile. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll find me on Twitter. I have a Facebook page. You're welcome to like or share. And also the free learning resources, which will be available on the SlideShare platform. I'd also like to encourage you at the end of this week, I'll be continuing with the next series, and that then deals with strategic human resources management. Again, 7 episodes in that regard, looking at the different competency profile of the strategic HR business partner. Again, I'd like to wish you the best of luck on your pathway towards actualizing towards a leading manager. I'd like to give you best wishes and regards, and I look forward to our next engagement. Thank you. Bye-bye.